We continue the Book of Jubilees, and he said, "Let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation." And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness, nor strive in righteousness. And we did according to all his words. All the malignant evil ones were bound in the place of condemnation, and a 10th part of them we left that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. And we explained to Noah all the medicines of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with herbs of the earth. And Noah wrote down all things in a book as we instructed him concerning every kind of medicine. Thus the evil spirits were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah. And he gave all that he had written to Shem, his eldest son, for he loved him exceedingly above all his sons. And Noah slept with his fathers, and was buried on Mount Lubar in the land of Ararat. 950 years he completed in his life, 19 jubilees and 2 weeks and 5 years. And in his life on earth he excelled the children of men save Enoch because of the righteousness, wherein he was perfect. Enoch's office was ordained for a testimony to the generations of the world, so that he should recount all the deeds of generations unto generations, till the day of judgment. And in the 33rd Jubilee, in the 1st year in the 2nd week, Peleg took to himself a wife, whose name was Lamna the daughter of Sinar, and she bare him a son in the 4th year of this week, and he called his name Ru, for he said, "Behold, the children of men have become evil through the wicked purpose of building for themselves a city and a tower in the land of Shinar. For they departed from the land of Ararat eastward to Shinar. For in his days they built the city and the tower, saying, Go to, let us ascend thereby into heaven. And they began to build, and in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and the bricks served them for stone, and the clay with which they cemented them together was asphalt which comes out of the sea, and out of the fountains of water in the land of Shinar. And they built it, 43 years were they building it. Its breadth was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was the third of one. Its height amounted to 5,433 cubits and 2 palms, and the extent of one wall was 13 stades and of the other 30 stades. And the Lord our God said unto us, Behold, they are one people, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be withholden from them. Go to, let us go down and confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech, and they may be dispersed into cities and nations, and one purpose will no longer abide with them till the day of judgment. And the Lord descended, and we descended with him to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech, and they ceased to build the city and the tower. For this reason the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, because the Lord did there confound all the language of the children of men, and from thence they were dispersed into their cities, each according to his language and his nation. And the Lord sent a mighty wind against the tower and overthrew it upon the earth. And behold, it was between Ashur and Babylon in the land of Shinar, and they called its name, Overthrow. In the 4th week in the 1st year in the beginning thereof in the 34th Jubilee, were they dispersed from the land of Shinar. And Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. And Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Egypt, that it was very good, and he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west that is to the sea, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward from the border of Jordan and from the border of the sea. And Ham, his father, and Cush and Mizraim his brothers said unto him, Thou hast settled in a land which is not thine, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so, for if thou dost do so, thou and thy sons will fall in the land and be accursed through sedition. For by sedition ye have settled, and by sedition will thy children fall, and thou shalt be rooted out forever. Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem, for Shem and to his sons did it come by their lot. Cursed art thou, and cursed shalt thou be beyond all the sons of Noah, by the curse by which we bound ourselves by an oath in the presence of the holy judge, and in the presence of Noah our father. But he did not hearken unto them, and dwelt in the land of Lebanon from Hamath to the entering of Egypt, he and his sons until this day. And for this reason that land is named Canaan. And Japheth and his sons went towards the sea and dwelt in the land of their portion, and Madai saw the land of the sea and it did not please him, and he begged a portion from Ham and Ashur and Arpachshad, his wife's brother, and he dwelt in the land of Media, near to his wife's brother until this day. And he called his dwelling place, and the dwelling place of his sons, Media, after the name of their father Madai. Chapter 11. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year thereof, Ru took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of the son of Kest, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Siro, in the 7th year of this week in this Jubilee. And the sons of Noah began to war on each other, to take captive and to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood, and to build strong cities, and walls, and towers, and individuals began to exalt themselves above the nation, and to found the beginnings of kingdoms, and to go to war people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city, and all began to do evil, and to acquire arms, and to teach their sons war, and they began to capture cities, and to sell male and female slaves. And the son of Kest, built the city of Era of the Chaldees, and called its name after his own name and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each idol, the molten image which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, and malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness. And the prince Mastema exerted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin, and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and destroy, and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name of Siro, Sereg, for every one turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up, and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother, and he worshipped idols, and he took to himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof, and her name was Melcha, the daughter of Cabir, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bare him Nahor, in the 1st year of this week, and he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, and his father taught him the researches of the Chaldees to divine and augur, according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee in the 6th week, in the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Ijaska, the daughter of Nestag of the Chaldees. And she bare Terah in the 7th year of this week. And the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land, in order to destroy the land, and rob the children of men of their labors. Before they could plow in the seed, the ravens picked it from the surface of the ground. And for this reason he called his name Terah, because the ravens and the birds reduced them to destitution and devoured their seed. And the years began to be barren, owing to the birds, and they devoured all the fruit of the trees from the trees. It was only with great effort that they could save a little of all the fruit of the earth in their days. And in this 39th Jubilee, in the 2nd week in the 1st year, Terah took to himself a wife, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Abram, the daughter of his father's sister. And in the 7th year of this week she bare him a son, and he called his name Abram, by the name of the father of his mother, for he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, that all went astray after graven images and after uncleanness, and his father taught him writing. And he was 2 weeks old, and he separated himself from his father, that he might not worship idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all things that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanness and vileness. And the seed time came for the sowing of seed upon the land, and they all went forth together to protect their seed against the ravens. And Abram went forth with those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, and Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, Descend not, return to the place whence ye came. And they proceeded to turn back. And he caused the clouds of ravens to turn back that day 70 times, and of all the ravens throughout all the land where Abram was there settled there not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back, and his name became great in all the land of the Chaldees. And there came to him this year all those that wished to sow, and he went with them until the time of sowing ceased. And they sowed their land, and that year they brought enough grain home and ate and were satisfied. And in the 1st year of the 5th week Abram taught those who made implements for oxen, the artificers in wood, and they made a vessel above the ground, facing the frame of the plough, in order to put the seed thereon. And the seed fell down therefrom upon the share of the plough, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens. And after this manner they made vessels above the ground on all the frames of the ploughs, and they sowed and tilled all the land, according as Abram commanded them, and they no longer feared the birds. Chapter 12. And it came to pass in the 6th week, in the 7th year thereof, that Abram said to Terah his father, saying, Father. And he said, Behold, here am I, my son. And he said, What help and profit have we from those idols which thou dost worship, and before which thou dost bow thyself? For there is no spirit in them, for they are dumb forms, and a misleading of the heart. Worship them not. Worship the God of heaven, who causes the rain and the dew to descend on the earth, and does everything upon the earth, and has created everything by his word, and all life is from before his face. Why do ye worship things that have no spirit in them? For they are the work of men's hands, and on your shoulders do ye bear them, and ye have no help from them, but they are a great cause of shame to those who make them, and a misleading of the heart to those who worship them. Worship them not. And his father said unto him, I also know it, my son, but what shall I do with a people who have made me to serve before them? And if I tell them the truth, they will slay me, for their soul cleaves to them to worship them and honor them. Keep silent, my son, lest they slay thee. And these words he spoke to his two brothers, and they were angry with him, and he kept silent. And in the 40th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 7th year thereof, Abram took to himself a wife, and her name was Sarai, the daughter of his father, and she became his wife. And Haran, his brother, took to himself a wife in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, and she bare him a son in the 7th year of this week, and he called his name Lot. And Nahor, his brother, took to himself a wife. And in the 60th year of the life of Abram, that is, in the 4th week, in the 4th year thereof, Abram arose by night, and burned the house of the idols, and he burned all that was in the house, and no man knew it. And they arose in the night, and sought to save their gods from the midst of the fire. And Haran hastened to save them, but the fire flamed over him, and he was burnt in the fire, and he died in Ur of the Chaldees before Terah his father, and they buried him in Ur of the Chaldees. And Terah went forth from Ur of the Chaldees, he and his sons, to go into the land of Lebanon and into the land of Canaan, and he dwelt in the land of Haran, and Abram dwelt with Terah his father in Haran 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 5th year thereof, Abram sat up throughout the night on the new moon of the 7th month to observe the stars from the evening to the morning, in order to see what would be the character of the year with regard to the rains, and he was alone as he sat and observed. And a word came into his heart, and he said, All the signs of the stars, and the signs of the moon and of the sun are all in the hand of the Lord. Why do I search them out? If he desires, he causes it to rain, morning and evening, and if he desires, he withholds it, and all things are in his hand. And he prayed that night and said, My God, God most high, thou alone art my God, and thee and thy dominion have I chosen. And thou hast created all things, and all things that are the work of thy hands. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have dominion over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. And stablish thou me and my seed forever, that we go not astray from henceforth and forevermore. And he said, Shall I return unto Ur of the Chaldees who seek my face, that I may return to them? Am I to remain here in this place? The right path before thee prosper is in the hands of thy servant, that he may fulfill it, and that I may not walk in the deceitfulness of my heart, O my God. And he made an end of speaking and praying, and behold, the word of the Lord was sent to him through me, saying, Get thee up from thy country, and from thy kindred, and from the house of thy father unto a land which I will show thee, and I shall make thee a great and numerous nation. And I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be blessed in the earth, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And I will be a God to thee and thy son, and to thy son's son, and to all thy seed. Fear not, from henceforth and unto all generations of the earth I am thy God. And the Lord God said, Open his mouth and his ears, that he may hear and speak with his mouth, with the language which has been revealed. For it had ceased from the mouths of all the children of men from the day of the overthrow of Babel. And I opened his mouth, and his ears and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Hebrew, in the tongue of the creation. And he took the books of his fathers, and these were written in Hebrew, and he transcribed them, and he began from henceforth to study them. And I made known to him that which he could not understand, and he studied them during the 6 rainy months. And it came to pass in the 7th year of the 6th week that he spoke to his father and informed him, that he would leave Haran to go into the land of Canaan to see it and return to him. And Terah his father said unto him, Go in peace, may the eternal God make thy path straight. And the Lord be with thee, and protect thee from all evil, and grant unto thee grace, mercy and favor before those who see thee. And may none of the children of men have power over thee to harm thee. Go in peace. And if thou seest a land pleasant to thy eyes to dwell in, then arise and take me to thee, and take Lot with thee, the son of Haran thy brother as thine own son, the Lord be with thee. And Nahor thy brother leaves with me till thou returnest in peace, and we go with thee all together. Chapter 13. And Abram journeyed from Haran, and he took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother Haran's son, to the land of Canaan, and he came into Ashur, and proceeded to Shechem, and dwelt near a lofty oak. And he saw, and, behold, the land was very pleasant from the entering of Hamath to the lofty oak. And the Lord said to him, To thee and to thy seed will I give this land. And he built an altar there, and he offered thereon a burnt sacrifice to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And he removed from thence unto the mountain Bethel on the west and Ai on the east, and pitched his tent there. And he saw, and behold, the land was very wide and good, and everything grew thereon, vines and figs and pomegranates, oaks and ilexes, and terebinths and oil trees, and cedars and cypresses and date trees, and all trees of the field, and there was water on the mountains. And he blessed the Lord who had led him out of Ur of the Chaldees, and had brought him to this land. And it came to pass in the first year, in the 7th week, on the new moon of the first month, that he built an altar on this mountain, and called on the name of the Lord. Thou, the eternal God, art my God. And he offered on the altar a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord, that he should be with him and not forsake him all the days of his life. And he removed from thence and went towards the south, and he came to Hebron, and Hebron was built at that time, and he dwelt there 2 years, and he went thence into the land of the south, to Beloth, and there was a famine in the land. And Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of the week, and he dwelt in Egypt 5 years before his wife was torn away from him. Now Tanais in Egypt was at that time built 7 years after Hebron. And it came to pass when Pharaoh seized Sarai, the wife of Abram, that the Lord plagued Pharaoh in his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Abram was very glorious by reason of possessions in sheep, and cattle, and asses, and horses, and camels, and menservants, and maidservants, and in silver and gold exceedingly. And Lot also his brother's son, was wealthy. And Pharaoh gave back Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out of the land of Egypt, and he journeyed to the place where he had pitched his tent at the beginning, to the place of the altar, with Ai on the east, and Bethel on the west, and he blessed the Lord his God who had brought him back in peace. And it came to pass in the 41st Jubilee in the 3rd year of the 1st week, that he returned to this place and offered thereon a burnt sacrifice, and called on the name of the Lord, and said, Thou, the Most High God, art my God forever and ever. And in the 4th year of this week Lot parted from him, and Lot dwelt in Sodom, and the men of Sodom were exceedingly sinners. And it grieved him in his heart that his brother's son had parted from him, for he had no children. In that year when Lot was taken captive, the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot had parted from him, in the 4th year of this week, Lift up thine eyes from the place where thou art dwelling, northward and southward, and westward and eastward. For all the land which thou seest I will give to thee and to thy seed forever, and I will make thy seed as the sand of the sea. Though a man may number the dust of the earth, yet thy seed shall not be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and the breadth of it, and see it all, for the seed will I give it. And Abram went to Hebron, and dwelt there. And in this year came Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Selasar, and Turgal, king of nations, and slew the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Sodom fled, and many fell through wounds in the vale of Siddim, by the salt sea. And they took captive Sodom and Adam and Zeboim, and they took captive Lot also, the son of Abram's brother, and all his possessions, and they went to Dan. And one who had escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive, and Abram armed his household servants. For Abram, and for his seed, 1/10 of the firstfruits to the Lord, and the Lord ordained it as an ordinance forever that they should give it to the priests who served before him, that they should possess it forever. And to this law there is no limit of days, for he hath ordained it for the generations forever that they should give to the Lord the 10th of everything, of the seed and of the wine and of the oil and of the cattle and of the sheep. And he gave it unto his priests to eat and to drink with joy before him. And the king of Sodom came to him and bowed himself before him, and said, Our lord Abram, give unto us the souls which thou hast rescued, but let the booty be thine. And Abram said unto him, I lift up my hands to the Most High God, that from a thread to a shoe latchet I shall not take aught that is thine, lest thou shouldst say, I have made Abram rich. save only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me Aner, Eskel, and Mamre. These shall take their portion. Chapter 14. After these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the new moon of the 3rd month, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a dream, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy defender, and thy reward will be exceeding great. And he said, Lord, Lord, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go hence childless, and the son of Mesech, the son of my handmaid, is the Damasek Eliezer. He will be my heir, and to me thou hast given no seed. And he said unto him, This man will not be thy heir, but one that will come out of thine own bowels, he will be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said unto him, Look toward heaven and number the stars if you are able to number them. And he looked toward heaven, and beheld the stars. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee the land of the Canaanites to possess it forever. And I will be God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And he said, Lord, Lord, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me a heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built there an altar, and sacrificed all these, and he poured their blood upon the altar, and divided them in the midst, and laid them over against each other. But the birds divided he not. And birds came down upon the pieces, and Abram drove them away, and did not suffer the birds to touch them. And it came to pass, when the sun had set, that an ecstasy fell upon Abram, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him, and it was said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall bring them into bondage, and afflict them 400 years. And the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge, and after that they shall come forth thence with much substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall return hither, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set, and there was a flame, and behold, a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To thy seed will I give this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, the Pocherites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. And the day passed, and Abram offered the pieces, and the birds, and their fruit offerings, and their drink offerings, and the fire devoured them. And on that day we made a covenant with Abram, according as we had covenanted with Noah in this month, and Abram renewed the festival and ordinance for himself forever. And Abram rejoiced, and made all these things known to Sarai his wife, and he believed that he would have seed, but she did not bear. And Sarai advised her husband Abram, and said unto him, Go in unto Hagar, my Egyptian maid, it may be that I shall build up seed unto thee by her. And Abram hearkened unto the voice of Sarai his wife, and said unto her, Do so. And Sarai took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. And he went in unto her, and she conceived and bare him a son, and he called his name Ishmael, in the 5th year of this week, and this was the 86th year in the life of Abram. Chapter 15. And in the 5th year of the 4th week of this Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram celebrated the feast of the firstfruits of the grain harvest. And he offered new offerings on the altar, the firstfruits of the produce, unto the Lord, an heifer and a goat and a sheep on the altar as a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered upon the altar with frankincense. And the Lord appeared to Abram, and said unto him, I am God Almighty. Approve thyself before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, and said, Behold, my ordinance is with thee, and thou shalt be the father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name from henceforth, even forever, shall be Abraham. For the father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee very great, and I will make thee into nations, and kings shall come forth from thee. And I shall establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, throughout their generations, for an eternal covenant, so that I may be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give to thee and to thy seed after thee the land where thou hast been a sojourner, the land of Canaan, that thou mayest possess it forever, and I will be their God. And the Lord said unto Abraham, And as for thee, do thou keep my covenant, thou and thy seed after thee. And circumcise ye every male among you, and circumcise your foreskins, and it shall be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the child on the 8th day ye shall circumcise, every male throughout your generations, him that is born in the house, or whom ye have bought with money from any stranger, whom ye have acquired who is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house shall surely be circumcised, and those whom thou hast bought with money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, her name shall no longer be called Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son by her, and I will bless him, and he shall become a nation, and kings of nations shall proceed from him. And Abraham fell on his face, and rejoiced, and said in his heart, Shall a son be born to him that is 100 years old, and shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Yea, and Sarah also shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant, and for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael also have I heard thee, and behold I will bless him, and make him great, and multiply him exceedingly, and he shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to thee, in these days, in the next year. And he left off speaking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham did according as God had said unto him, and he took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and whom he had bought with his money, every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And on the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of his house, and those born in the house, and all those, whom he had bought with money from the children of the stranger, were circumcised with him. This law is for all the generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, and no omission of one day out of the 8 days. For it is an eternal ordinance, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. And every one that is born, the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to the children of the covenant which the Lord made with Abraham, but to the children of destruction. Nor is there, moreover, any sign on him that he is the Lord's, but he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth, and to be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of the Lord our God. For all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation, and before the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification he hath sanctified Israel, that they should be with him and with his holy angels. And do thou command the children of Israel, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance, and they will not be rooted out of the land. For the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among all the children of Israel. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, the Lord did not cause to approach him, and he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. And he sanctified it, and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his, and over all hath he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. But over Israel he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his and he may be theirs from henceforth forever. And now I announce unto thee that the children of Israel will not keep true to this ordinance, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this law, for in the flesh of their circumcision they will omit this circumcision of their sons, and all of them, sons of Beliar, will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from the Lord against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant and turned aside from his word, and provoked and blasphemed, inasmuch as they do not observe the ordinance of this law. For they have treated their members like the Gentiles, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land. And there will no more be pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sin of this eternal error.